Van Dyke Show, starring Dick Van Dyke.
Thanks for staying up later. We're looking forward to these two shows coming up now with Carl Reiner, whose movie Sibling Rivalry with Kirstie Alley is in the theaters right now. And we'll talk about that in the second program. But let's focus on the television side of Carl Reiner here, because it's pretty obvious that you're involved with two of the most enduring shows in television history. Your show of shows with Sid Caesar and Imogene Coca, and later, the Dick Van Dyke Show. Let's start with that one. What makes the Dick Van Dyke Show different and groundbreaking in sitcom history?
Well, you know, I didn't know it was groundbreaking when I did it. My wife, in her infinite wisdom, when I was offered a lot of television pilots to read and to contemplate doing, she said, "You can write better than this." I had never written one. "You don't have a hair in front of your eye, do you?" "I do." "There it is. Thank goodness." And I was riding down the west side, no, the east side drive, the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Drive. I remember the moment it happened, and I said, what can I write about? What the heck do I know that's different than anything? What piece of ground do I stand on that nobody else does? I said, wait, I was an actor on the show of shows, and I was really an actor without a writer's portfolio, but I was in the writing sessions and wrote with them. I says, that's a subject that I know about. I lived it for 9 years, so I wrote the home life, because that's where we lived. The home life was where we worked for 8 hours a day, but we went home and talked about it with our wives. They said, enough already. I realized that that's rife for material.
There may have been others, but if it wasn't a first, it was certainly rare that the Dick Van Dyke Show was a show that was set in the office at least as much as in the Petrie household. We didn't know what Ozzie really did in Ozzie and Harry. We didn't know what Ward Cleaver's job was, or Robert Young as Jim Anderson. Maybe they were insurance men. I think that was sort of hinted at, but you never saw where they worked, and it didn't matter.
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't know I was doing that. It was only after I did, smart people like you noticed, and somebody wrote an article, and they said he broke ground. I said, I broke ground. Didn't know I was breaking ground. I was just doing. That's why things work. You do it really from the gut, and then if you do it right, somebody will examine it and say what you did right. I was breaking ground. And while I was breaking that ground, I remember the first show, somebody said, show business, nobody is interested in show business. One of the heads of CBS said, and he said, why can't you make them insurance people so people will know that? I said, well, as far as I know, insurance people don't tell jokes during the day. I said, don't you see what we got? He had a
you know, I was going to sell the guy term, but then he bought whole life.
Yeah, right. And then they would... Well, insurance people would collect jokes, too. They would tell, but we wouldn't have a Maury Amsterdam or a Rose Marie or a Dick Van Dyke. I said, we're doing a premise. We always set up the premise with jokes. While we're telling the premise, we've got people spritzing with jokes. I said, isn't that a better way?
I sure hope we hear something. I hate this suspense.
Hate this whole thing.
I hate that whole thing.
Rob, Alan asked me to... Why are you all standing like that?
We're trying out for a toboggan team.
Mel, I know that Alan wants to see me in the office, but we're all three going up there together.
No, Alan's in Pittsburgh. He'll be back tomorrow, and he wants that laundry room sketch done by then.
Is that all he said?
You didn't leave anything out, Mel?
What do you mean?
No, he's not lying. When he lies, his whole head gets pink.
Is there some sort of a problem?
No, nothing.
Well, is there anything I can do in Alan's absence?
Yeah, join him.
We called Dick Van Dyke Rob, after my son Rob. I named it after my son Rob. And nobody was named Rob in those days. Robert is my son, and we called him Robbie. We liked the name Robbie. And there were so many Robs born during that period that Rob Petrie was, when he was the king of television.
Van Dyke, though, had been in 10 or 12 failed pilots, so he wasn't surefire, right?
This was the 13th pilot. I think he made 12 pilots before. But everybody knew he was talented. That's why they kept throwing pilots at him, but they had to find what he did best. And what he did best is play a real guy. He is the most gifted natural actor I've ever met in my whole life. He's one of these ambidextrous people. You put a script in one hand, and you can put anything, like we're reading the script for the first time, and there's any business, drinking a cup of... He could do it with the other hand, reading it for the first time.
And you always tried to work in things where he could be physical.
Oh, yeah. His manager would come and say, we got to do something physical this way. We got to find ideas.
Now, we're going to get to the theater in time for the overture. Are you ready?
No, but go ahead and please be careful.
I will. You got your bath mat on?
Okay. Did you hit it yet?
No, it's just a practice shot, honey. All right, honey, this time I'm going to give it a real shot, if you're covered.
Covered.
Okay.
Another difference between the Van Dyke Show and other sitcoms was that Mary Tyler Moore, as Laura Petrie, ran around in slacks, sweatshirt or something.
The only time I ever heard this word, they used to scream at us and say, people saying she can't wear pants because of the... I said, why? It's because they're not... People in America, it's not right. People... I said, but that's her. That's the modern world. Maybe in the Midwest, they don't wear them, but they will start wearing when they see that Mary Tyler Moore is a hit and they love her. And they said, no, you can only wear them in one scene. This was an edict. In one scene in every show. I said, oh, what happens if she goes into the bedroom and we cut for a commercial and she comes out of the bedroom a second later because it's continuous action? Is she going to go in and change her clothes to satisfy? Well, maybe if it's continuous action, she can wear the same clothes. Then we had to have her wear a dress if it was not continuous action. And I never forget this note from Procter & Gamble, I forget, or the agency, who Grant Tinker was a member of then, but he used to look like this and say, what can I do? He said, this note came, watch her undercupping. I says, what is her undercupping? She's wearing a dress that is very tight, and it illustrates the curve of her behind. We call that undercupping. I never heard the word. You knew the word,
no.
Undercupping?
I'm just trying to be agreeable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, has anybody in the world heard the word undercupping? And they said, watch for her I kept that on my wall. I said, I'm too busy today. I'm watching for undercupping. I'm going to be spending the whole afternoon watching for undercupping.
I'm going to start using it, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a girl walking, you know, several paces ahead and say, check the undercupping on this babe.
Yes. Anyway, we had to check her undercupping, and we told her. We told Mary, you're undercupping. We didn't do anything about it. We said, that's ridiculous, and they didn't fight us on it.
Yeah, she was another one who wasn't necessarily tabbed as surefire. You might have seen it. Some of the others might have seen it when she walked into the office to audition, but she'd been knocking around show business for a while.
The day she came to audition for us, I had already seen literally 60 different people, and I went to Sheldon Leonard, our executive producer. I said, I don't know what I'm looking for. He says, you will when you see it. And we went in to see Danny Thomas, because we flew a girl in from New York, paid $500 to test somebody, or just to read them, and she wasn't quite right, and we had to go report to the money man, Danny Thomas. Danny, we just spent $500 and find a girl. And he said, who is that girl who read for the part of my daughter, but she had the wrong nose in my family, went this way instead of this way? 3 names. She got legs. I said, we found that was Mary Tyler Moore. And she wasn't going to come in. Her agent called her, said, you want to come for a reading? She says, no. She was very depressed that day. She said, no, I don't want to go in. She came in and read 3 lines, maybe 2. And I went across the room. She was sitting in a chair, and I grabbed the top of her head like a cantaloupe. And I says, come with me. And she got scared. She thought it's one of these producers who's going to do that thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I took her by the head. I said, come with me. And then she knew I was kidding. She's coming. And I took her to Sheldon Leonard's office. This is the girl. And she had a ping in her voice, which I've used that before, the word ping. I never heard that sound before.
You promised you'd marry me. Where were you?
That's what I want to explain.
I've never been so humiliated in my whole life, Ralph. Everybody was here. Even my Aunt Mildred was here. She came all the way from Ohio.
Oh, honey, please. I hate to see you cry like this.
Well, it's the only way I know how to cry.
The reason it worked, I think, is because it's one man's reality. There were no... You ever watch the crawls today on television shows? There's 2 writers, usually a team of writers,
right.
Then there's a team of executive producers, then there's story editors, and there's story supervisors, story editors, and supervising the editors, and there's about 9 names. But there's 9 sensibilities there. Usually it filters through one. But in this case, it was me. I was doing what I thought was my life.
could see me now, that little gang of mine, I'm eating fancy chow and drinking fancy wine. I'd like those stumble bumps to see for a fact the kind of top drawer, first-rate chums I attract. All I can say is, wow, look where I am tonight. I landed how right in a pot of jam, and what a setup! Holy cow, they'll never believe me if my friends could see me now. If they could see me now, my little dust.
Somebody said once that one of the differences, and other shows now since are like this, but one of the reasons why the Van Dyke Show at the time was pretty close to unique was that people didn't act in some extravagant slapstick way. They behaved. Yes. And there was lots of laughs that came out of their behavior and their honest characterizations, but they weren't in these weird sitcom situations where somebody's toe gets stuck in the bathtub faucet or someone's hanging upside down from the Chrysler building. No. They were just these people that you came to know, and their character was amusing.
It's interesting. I'll answer two parts of that, because one, I agree with what you're saying. Somebody asked me what's the funniest line I ever wrote, and I said the funniest line I ever wrote was, oh? Got a big laugh because of what happened before it. But when you say toe stuck in the faucet, you're talking about one of the most traumatic shows I ever was involved in. I wrote a show, Dick and Mary were going to go to New York to see a big play and have a romantic second honeymoon night in a big, beautiful suite. And he's dressing up beautifully, puts a mustache on to look like David Niven. Because he says, how do you want me dressed? She's David Nivenish. So he puts a mustache on, I think, and she goes to take a bath, and she gets her toe stuck in a faucet.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes, and it was maybe our funniest show. But the reason it's traumatic is that's the show where Mary decided a week before to stop smoking. She was a rather heavy smoker, and she stopped smoking. And she was not herself. She was not herself, and she was argumentative. I had her in the bathroom, and I didn't have a camera in the bathroom. All the stuff, her yelling through the bathroom door, he says, I'm coming through. She says, no, don't bust down the door. There's a glass on the door. It'll shatter the mirror. And there was a lot of lines coming for her. He said, well, get a towel. I don't have a towel. There's a washcloth. He says, do the best you can. And she says, how come there's no camera in the bathroom? I said, because I want America to imagine you nude. I said, if we had a camera, they'll see what we show them. This way, they see you with a washcloth, and they'll fantasize the way most men will undress women. I said, here, we've undressed them for you. And she understood it, but she felt that she wasn't in the show enough. And she got very petulant and upset, and she dogged the first run-through rehearsal. And I never yelled at anybody, hardly anybody. One or two actors in my life. Mary, there's no reason to yell at her. I screamed at her. I said, how could you do this to me? I'm looking at the show. I have to make changes. She was so upset, and I apologized. She said, I can't come back on the set. I said, look, she's because you never yell, and you yelled at me. Everybody think I must be a monster. I apologized to her, and I said, everything I said, I should have said quietly in your dressing room. But she gave up smoking, and she had nerve ends, raw nerve ends. She sent me a beautiful brass thing, which I have mounted in the house of a faucet, with a plaque on it.
Now, where are you in the room?
I'm in the bathtub.
Good thinking. Now, look here. I'm going to blow the lock off. If he didn't tie your hands, hold your ears. 1, 2...
Give me that gun. Go back. Only a husband can blow the lock off a bathroom with his wife in a bathtub with nothing on and her toe stuck in a pipe. Now, call me a prude if you like. You stay right there. Don't make a move. Honey, you all right?
Oh, Rob.
I'm sorry, you look so funny.
You guys want to see something ridiculous?
You played Alan Brady, who was the host of the show that these people were writing for. But for the first 2-3 years, I don't think we ever saw you. And then eventually it was a big deal when people saw Alan Brady.
Well, when I cast that part, I said, I can't cast anybody big enough. I want them to think of Phil Silvers, Bob Hope, Sid Caesar, Jackie Gleason. And I said, nobody big enough. They're going to say, who? So I said, I'll play the part, but I'm not that big. I always felt myself as a second banana. I said, so I played him under a towel with my hand in front of my face with a telephone. And then about the second year, I used to do one out of every 13. I was busy writing, so I couldn't come down to act very often. But when the scripts got complicated, I said, it's not fair to the script or the author not to turn this guy around when they got very complicated. Then I loved it. I loved it when Alan Brady had a big part.
I always thought it was good that Brady, as played by you, didn't appear to be especially talented. No. So that these talented people
yes.
had to sweat and slave to make this preening lout look good.
I know. Everybody asked, was it based on anybody I know? Really nobody, because all of the guys, the top bananas, were incredible. Phil Silvers there's nobody been like Phil Silvers, who behaved, acted like him on stage. Sid Caesar was like the flame that all the moths clung to. Jackie Gleason, incredible. But there was there were performers on early television who had shows, and they named them after them, and they disappeared very quickly. And I said, well, it makes more fun to have a hard-nosed guy there.
Well, yes, Alan.
Who has a very bad sacroiliac?
Well, you do, Alan.
How bad?
Oh, very bad.
Then why am I still standing?
Oh.
I don't understand you guys. I give you everything. A beautiful office, a desk, a piano, pure drinking water, a coat rack, a filing cabinet. Is that a window?
Yes.
A window. Give me everything, and what do I get in return? A knife in the back.
A knife in the back?
That's right.
Shut up, Mel.
We continue with Dick Van Dyke, and after the first run went off in the mid-'60s, there was such a clamor for it that you came back with the new Dick Van Dyke show in the early '70s. Different situation.
Yeah, well, what happened is Dick sort of half-retired and moved to Carefree, Arizona. He lived in a place called Cave Creek. And lo and behold, about 2 miles down the road, they built the Southwest Studios, a tremendous studio for movies or whatever, a really first-rate, state-of-the-art studio in that time, 1970. And somebody said to Dick, wouldn't you like to do another show? You can go fall out of bed and do it right in that studio. And it's the middle of the wilderness, the middle of the desert, but people would come in from Carefree, Scottsdale, Phoenix to see it as the audience members. And somebody told me it was being done, and it was like 1970, this 1965 was the end of the show, and I said, I really worried that he would get something that wouldn't fit his talent. So when they asked me to do the pilot, I said, please, I want to.
There was some episode, and this is now early 70s, right? 72, 73, somewhere in there. There's one episode where you wanted to get a little bit further toward the edge, and they wouldn't let you.
I think I'm still a little angry about it. Could you tell her from my demeanor? Just a little pissed off about it. The third year, we're going along swimmingly. We're in the top 10 for most of the year. Never fell below 15, but the whole year's going well. And I used to tell everybody that a lot of television situation comedy, you try hard to come up with something new, but you can't, so you do whatever you can. But once in a while, an inspiration hits somebody, and you do a show that's never been done before. What happens when a child walks in on his parents while they're making love? It was done, finished, and they said, we're not airing it. One guy, who was a nice guy, his argument, I remember screaming on the phone. I said, what is the argument? He said, well, he says, we don't want to talk about that. I said, what? He says that they went to bed and just had sex. I says, well, that's what they did. That's what people do. In this particular episode, Dick came home from being on the road with a show, and he came and surprised his wife, still in his lieutenant's outfit from the Civil War outfit.
You ever been with a cavalry officer?
I don't think I've ever had the pleasure, sir.
Well, you're in for a treat, man.
They made love, they made fun, they made lovely, and you didn't see any of the moment. It's a little moment where the kid walks into the bedroom. And I said, but that's the truth. He said, no, but we can't tell the people that you have sex for other reasons than to have children. I said, why? Isn't that true? You always have the possibility. I said, they had it because they were in love. Anyway, that was the argument. And Dick and I, and all of us said, if that doesn't go on the air, we shouldn't be in this business. It went on the air in Canada, not here, And all of us got out that year. I said, that's enough.
Because of that. That was the straw.
More or less. We were in
broke
the
the
top
camel's
10,
back?
top 15, and we all said, if we're going to have this kind of... I think Dick, I said I wouldn't, and Dick said neither would I, so there it was.
All right, so what we're about to see, a little clip of the show, has been seen in Canada, but it never aired in the United States.
Never had been seen any place in the United States, and hasn't been seen since 1973 any place.
Are we having another baby?
Huh?
No, darling, we're not.
We're not? Then what was all that for? Oh, Miss Thurman said...
Why, you don't always have a baby.
You don't?
No.
That's good.
That makes you happy?
Yeah, I love Chrissy, but we don't need two of him.
Yeah, one of them is quite enough, huh?
Hey, I need a hug.
Me too.
Oh, that was a good one. What is it?
You sure did look silly.
Tomorrow night, Carl Reiner will be back in the same clothes, and we'll talk about...
Set. I'm sorry, you don't mind if I wear the same thing?
You have to.
Okay, good.
You have no choice.
Okay.
You'd be surprised how fast tomorrow's going to come in this case. 2,000-year-old man, your show of shows, All of Me, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaids, Sibling Rivalry, the movie that's out now that he directed with Kirstie Alley. So we hope you'll have a chance to join us tomorrow night. Until then, see you later.
Helen, I touch her in the future, and her heart sings a song only my soul can hear from the past. The past.
Helen, were she a man and I a woman, could I love her inner being no less for eternity's sake?
Dorks, both of them.
In the kingdom of laughter, the ruler is...
Wings.
Thanks for staying up later. Carl Reiner is back. Last time we talked about the Dick Van Dyke Show. Tonight, on to adventures with Mel Brooks and Sid Caesar and some of the movie work that Carl has been involved in. Let's go to your show of shows. The show of shows was on from 1950 to 54 on Saturday nights,
right,
from 9 until 10:30 Eastern Time. Is it a stretch or fair to say that in some ways there were elements of Saturday Night Live? Not just because it was Saturday, but some of the things that were done.
It was the review format, and it hadn't been done before. Show of Shows didn't invent it. It was done on Broadway, but Max Liebman, who had been working in places like Tamim at these summer resorts that put on reviews, 3 weeks of new reviews, and then they'd repeat. So at least he knew how to do 3 in a row without repeating. Now he was asked to do 39 in a row. It was a little more difficult. The very first review was, it can't be done. Sid can't do a monologue every week. They said, how is he going to come up with... He came up with 300 monologues, you know, and it could be done if you get enough of the great writers that we've got.
How biting was the satire in the context of the times, and how much of the success was simply the great comedic ability of the cast?
I think that was the biggest success, the comedic ability of the cast and the writers. The satire was minimal compared to what we're seeing today. We didn't satirize any political things. It was verboten. It was during the McCarthy days. We'd all be arrested if we made fun of the government or the workings of the government.
If not arrested, at least you wouldn't work.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't work, yes. Arrested, development would have been arrested. And, but so we satirized the things that were safe. We satirized the television shows, motion pictures, foreign movies, the basic behavior of people in the suburbs, pantomimes. That was not satirized. But there was a thing called the cliches. We satirized human behavior. That was satire, but we didn't do political satire. My God, the Saturday Night Update with Dennis Miller, we would have been off the air.
You used to do that interview thing where you were always the trench-coated interviewer.
Still have that trench coat.
And and Caesar would be walking
the world's
by.
greatest something.
Right, and he was always a professor of something. He was Professor von Gesundheit. It was always von something or other that indicated some preposterous claim to expertise.
Right.
What's the most important single problem in space today? That's a good question. Well, that's the most important problem in space today, I would say, is closet space. That's the most important.
One of the famous jokes, I asked him a long, involved space question, and he was contemplating this question. I said, is it true that the pulsating universe is in the unified field theory, or whatever it was, a long question, and he was contemplating this, and he says, is that infected? This little thing there, it hurts a lot. I said, would you answer? Well, go on, next question. He didn't. But I mean, he always had those wonderful moments where he was caught.
How much of what we feel about a program like Sid Caesar's is nostalgia for a certain time where television was new. People said, wait a minute, we can all sit at home. And in a communal experience, the next day in the office, we can all be talking about what we saw, Uncle Milty or Sid Caesar, whatever. How much of it is that, and how much is the true objective quality of the program?
I can't give you percentages, but I think it has got both. Because I look at some of them now, some of them are make me laugh, and others when I say, well, that's what we were doing at the time. They're not particularly great. But the nostalgia thing is tremendous. I mean, if you saw it as a kid, but then we have things like the takeoff of This Is Your Life, which is sheer hilarious comedy.
This is your story, Al. Now, come on up here, Al. Yes, sir, come on up here, Al. The intimate story. He's a little overwhelmed, a little overwrought, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you'll just come this way, Al. Al, see, this is going to be the story of your life. We're going to tell the intimate, inside story.
I saw it in the theater. They put it in the theater once, 10 from Your Show of Shows. And I heard, I've described this before, I heard a woman screaming with laughter. Just, screaming behind me. It wasn't behind me, it was coming from me. I was laughing so hard, I didn't realize, I'd never made a sound like that before. The commitment to love, when these two people saw each other, and Sid Caesar saw his old cronies on the show. He's supposed to be Al Duncy, whatever it is, and he saw his Uncle Goopy. Uncle Goopy, and they started to shake with love, and Uncle Goopy would never let go. They were so happy to be reunited, and they played the excessive amount of love. They went past the point of no return.
Uncle Goopy!
They're certainly happy to see each other. Now, just sit down here, Al. With your...
There was a very nice little picture several years ago, My Favorite Year, which obviously was loosely based on the collection of characters who wrote for the Show of Shows.
Right.
How accurate?
There were moments of accuracy, a lot of moments. There was one moment, one part of it that I felt was wonderful. There was one writer in this thing who never spoke, he just mumbled, and the other writer would carry it. This was a non-talking writer. That was Neil Simon. Neil Simon was very quiet. He has the voice of a turtle, very quiet voice. And I used to sit next to him. I'm noisy. And I would scream. I would say, Neil's got it, Doc, in those days. Doc's got it. And I would say what Doc had just said. And it would go into the script. But Doc would be afraid to get up and compete with these maniacs. So he's afraid he'd be shot down because they do shoot you down in that room. What are you talking? What do you know? You think that's funny? I'll show you what's funny. A lot of that going on.
Who was the most productive?
The most would me. Probably me. There was no such thing. It was a symbiotic thing. I remember the challenges where somebody would come in and say, that's no good. Yeah, we'll come up with something better. I could come up with something better in 5 minutes. I remember Mel Brooks once came in late. I never forget this. He came in late because he was an insomniac. He always came in after everybody had started. We'd get some script pages done, and Sid would say, what are you so late? His bagel and coffee always preceded him by 10 minutes. We knew he's coming. He'd call in for a bagel and coffee from the 6th Avenue Delicatessen, and would come. Once I paid $20 tip and shame him because he had to pay us back. But he came in and said, this is not funny. They were working on a joke, I think, about, it was a carrot joke. You know, you eat a carrot, you know, it's good for your eyesight. We said, a carrot joke? You're going to come, there's no new carrot joke. It's a dull, dead joke. And Mel said, I'll come up with it. I'll come up with a carrot joke that nobody's ever heard. And he was up against the wall. He's like plastered to the wall with pins. You could see him like a butterfly up against the wall. I'll come up. He says, he ate so many carrots that he couldn't sleep at night. Why? Because he saw through his eyelids. Now, that was a joke that never, and we applauded and said, okay, you win.
Where'd the idea for the 2,000-year-old man come from?
I know exactly where it came from, and
I figured you might.
No, because there have been many things written, and if enough people watch this show, they will know for all time. There was a show called We the People Speak, where Dan Seymour, who was later to become the head of J. Walter Thompson, had a show called We the People Speak, which was on radio. Now it's converted to television. And I was home one night, and I heard him say, this man was actually in Stalin's toilet when he heard Stalin say, I got to blow up the world Thursday. And they'd recreate the moment. And I came in the office. I said, did anybody see We the People the other night? I said, incredible, absolutely incredible. The guy was saying that he's going to blow up the world, that he heard it in Stalin's toilet. I said, if it's true, tell the president. Don't tell America. Scaring the pants off people. And I turned to Mel Brooks. I was sitting on a couch. He was here. And I said, here's a man who's actually at the... And I did Dan Seymour's voice. Here's a man who's actually at the scene of the crucifixion. Isn't that true, sir? Oh, boy, he said. Yeah. And then from then on, I started to interview Mel for the next 10 years. Anytime we got bored, Mel, I knew could... He had things he did like Jewish pirates. He did all kind of crazy characters, just entertain us. And now I had him forever.
Sir, where did the word applause come from?
From the Latin. Everything good springs from the Latin. You've got Dolores Del Rio, whatever.
But where did the word applause, I mean, what is the derivation in Latin?
In the Latin, if they didn't like an act.
Yes, the Latins.
The old Latins, if they didn't like an act, they would yell out, a minus, a minus.
A minus?
And if they loved somebody, they would yell, a plus, a plus.
You'd ask him a question about something of great historic significance, some transcendent figure out of the history books, and he would focus with great earnestness on some inane aspect of their alleged... Leif Erikson loved pastrami.
Yeah, right. Freud was a good basketball player. Could dribble good. Wasn't a good shooter, but a good dribbler. Never didn't know about Freud. Yeah, he'd always do that. Shakespeare wasn't a good writer. He made dots and ends, and he wasn't a good writer. No, he made blots all over the paper. His ends looked like an M. He never crossed the T's, never dotted the I. Wasn't a good writer. He always did that. He deprecated people quickly. Yeah.
A lot of that had to be off the cuff.
All of it was off the cuff. That's what was the beauty part of it, as we used to say. The first record was 47 minutes. It was 2 hours of ad lib. The second record, the same thing. And on the second record, we had Brendan Bain was in the audience, and Mel didn't know it. Mel would have gotten frightened to know that a brain was in an audience like that. We didn't tell him. But at the end of the session, Brendan Bain raised his hand in the middle of the session. He says, "Can I go to the toilet?" He said, "There's no comment on your performance. I have to go to the toilet." So he went to the toilet. He said, "That's Brendan Bain." Yeah, I said, "Yeah, I didn't want to tell you." Now, in between, he comes up to me. He says, "I have a new motto. Bricht hart mir nicht, bricht brocht." He said something in Gaelic. And what it was, I asked Mel in the record, I said, when you lived in caves, did you have... He said, "Oh, yes, we all lived in caves. I lived in everybody had a number on the cave, every number. We had a cave." And he says, I said, "We're like little entities, a clan, a cave." I said, "Did you have a national anthem?" Every cave had a national anthem. "Oh, sure." I said, "You remember your national anthem?"
I certainly do. I'll never forget it. You don't forget a national anthem in a minute.
Let me hear it, sir.
Let them all go to hell except Cave 76.
And that, Brendan Bain picked up on that. He said it's the most brilliant thing our national has ever done.
Let them all go to hell except Cave 76.
When did you first discover that your son Rob was funny?
The first time I knew he had great talent, the first time I discovered it was when Norman Lear told me when he was 10 years old on Fire Island. He said, "Your son is hilarious." I said, "What? Rob hilarious? He's a quiet kid. He's a doer." He did a thing with cheating at Jack's with my daughter Ellen. And it's the first time I'd heard he was funny. Rob, I knew, had a great sense of humor. He laughed always since he's a little kid. He always laughed at the right things. He became fans of, of Soupy Sales and the Three Stooges and all that. And then his taste developed, and now he's the best filmmaker I know.
Your new film is Sibling Rivalry. Is there a gentle father and son rivalry? He's such an accomplished filmmaker. Princess Bride and Spinal Tap, and When Harry Met Sally, and Stand By Me.
Yeah, I became very aware when he started doing pictures and directing better than I direct. I became very aware of it, and then I was so happy to find that I'm really, truly a father. I was more happy than I was. You always worry about your own power, my losing my power, my ability. You worry about that. When you see the world pass you by, I mean, new music, new Look, I thank God you're wearing this kind of clothes, but I can't wear the modern clothes. And so when your own son becomes that, there is that feeling, oh, my God, he's passed me by. I remember saying that when I had my third child. My father only had two. I said, so I must have, and he must have, I never talked about it, but he must have said, he had one more child than I did. The competition is there, but what a wonderful thing to compete with somebody you love and wish them well. You don't ever want to beat them. You don't want to, I don't want to make movies that are a bit more successful in him. I'm making this, the last movie, Sibling Rivalry, I made for Castle Rock. I'm hoping it's successful for him and me.
What sort of film can you do that he can't, or at least not as well? And
None.
what can he do that you wouldn't try?
None. Oh, there are many. He did Misery. I would never. He did Stephen King's novel Misery, adapted for the screen by Bill Goldman. I saw it. It's sensational. It's a genre I always admired. You know, I don't know what you call it. It's not horror. It's not a horror movie, but it is very makes you very emotionally nervous. I can't do that. I don't know if I could, if I were told to by the Army. The Army's the only one who ever told you have to do chin-ups, you do them. I don't know if I could have done it, but I certainly couldn't have done, The Princess Bride I might have been able to do, but not like him. He tread a wonderful thin line. Spinal Tap was it for me. I mean, I never would, it was his milieu, his life, you know, the rock life, that's part of, but he and his three buddies pulled off something that I think is a classic for all time.
You've done some pictures with Steve Martin.
4 of them.
One of them is one of my favorites. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Where did the idea of intercutting this so that it actually appeared as if Martin was interacting with Barbara Stanwyck and Cary Grant and Humphrey Bogart and all the others? Where'd that come from?
Steve Martin, George Geip, a writer, and myself were sitting in a Thai restaurant saying, let's do something in the 40s, a musical or something black and white. And we don't know how the idea, who popped it up. We talked about it. We said, who said it? I know I carried the ball because I'm the one who had to sell it to the studios. And I thought it was the best idea we ever had. And also the most fun idea to implement because it required sitting in a room for days and days and days looking at old film, wonderful old film, and saying, there's a line we could use, and George would say, that could be done here. And we had to write a story. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle, interstitial all these crazy lines. And then we had John DeCure, one of the great art directors, recreated 92 sets, pieces of sets that existed in other movies. Edith Head made costumes that existed and had silkscreen prints made when Steve Martin had to play James Cagney's mother wearing a dress. We had to build a silkscreen dress, a print, because it had to match what his mother was wearing.
They all matched perfectly.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary...
The look was identical.
It was an extraordinary... I think the technical aspects of that were as good as the comedic aspects.
Get me a cup of Java, will you?
Yeah?
Hello, Marlowe.
Oh, hello, Bernie.
No, it's me, Rigby.
What's up?
I'm on an important case. I need your help. How soon can you get over here?
I just woke up. I haven't had breakfast.
Breakfast? You're late for lunch, pal. It's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock?
Yeah, why don't you hustle on over here? I'll make you a cup of my famous Java.
I'd rather buy my own.
Suit yourself. See you in a half hour. And Marlowe, wear a tie, for God's sake.
Wasn't that one of the very last films Edith had worked on?
It was the last film she worked on. We dedicated it to her.
I
She
remember
died.
that, the credit at the very end.
Oh, yeah,
right?
she was so wonderful. She came in with a hat for Rachel Ward to wear at the beginning. This was worn by either Ingrid Bergman, I can't remember, Ava Gardner. She says, it's a very important hat to me. Don't do anything to this hat. We usually have doubles, you know, when you drop a hat on the floor, step on it. We were so careful with that hat. We didn't care about anything but that hat. I remember her so fondly. She was so sweet. The last day we were shooting, she made a dress for Steve Martin to wear as Barbara Stanwyck. Steve was going to be Barbara Stanwyck with Fred MacMurray was. She came to the set day very old, very ready to shuffle off the mortal coil, and she lay down on the couch in the one of the sets, the detective set, I put a blanket over her. She slept for an hour or two. But she came to see her last costume, and about 2 weeks later, she was gone. But boy, what a wonderful woman.
Your dry, scratchy throat, give it instant relief. With lozenges from Cepacol, so tangy, so cool, so lightly, slightly sweet. New Sunny Honey Lemon, new Berry Cherry Red, new Menthol Eucalyptus, feels like it clears my head. Lozenges from Cepacol, so tangy, cool and neat. Lozenges for instant dry throat relief. I said lozenges from Cepacol for fast dry throat relief.
Hey, Somerville, you asked for a home entertainment center you could trust, and we heard you.
This Thursday, don't miss the grand opening of the new Nobody Beats the Whiz at the Somerville Circle. All stores celebrate with grand opening savings of 5 to 25% on selected home electronics. Take $2 off every CD and $1 off every cassette. And you can win a 1990 Geo Metro convertible, courtesy of Malcolm Connor Chevrolet Geo, and Nobody Beats the Whiz.
Nobody beats the whiz. Nobody beats the whiz.
The air's crackling with excitement. At your Toyota dealer, where lightning is striking again on the reliable new 91 Camry. And we're back with the biggest option package savings in Toyota history. And big factory dealer incentives are here so you can save even more. See for yourself. Come drive a new 91 Camry now. So don't just sit there. Hurry, even though lightning strikes twice. 3 strikes and you may be out of luck.
What's the premise, quickly, of Sibling Rivalry as we tape here? I haven't seen it, but it's been out in the theaters now for a while.
You should get out of this thing. You know, your problem is you sit home, and is your mother, you sit home every night talking to people? You never get to the movies. Well, it's, if you don't pay attention to the needs of your spouse, and in this case, a doctor played by Scott Bakula is more interested in other people's intestines than he is in his wife's. And they don't communicate, and they don't have sex. And she, because of frustration and because her sister, who's a wild one, suggests that she doesn't know what life is because she married the first man who felt her up, is what she says in the movie, go out and have an affair. And she gets furious. And next thing she meets is Sam Elliott in a supermarket, who said, "Ma'am, you dented your cheese." She puts a big can on it. She does have to go and try one time to see if her husband is doing it right. And that's the beginning of it, and the rest you're going to have to pay for.
When a movie gets mixed reviews, is it instructive? Are the negative reviews instructive or just wounding?
I'm so happy you asked me that question. This is the first time in the history of my life that I have not read one review. I have heard 2 comments came from me from one of the heads of Castle Rock about something said about one of the actors in it. I wanted to go and strangle that person. The man said that one of the actors was to, I can't even repeat it because I'm so angry. I know comedy better than this guy, and he was saying this guy's not funny. He's hilarious. Rob, all of us were hysterical. One guy picked on it. I stopped reading reviews. I will read the reviews maybe a month down the line, 2 months down the line, maybe to do a piece on critics, because a wonderful piece was done in the calendar section of the Los Angeles Times about criticism and critics. And people who are called critics, you know, George Bernard Shaw was a critic. You know, Beerbaum was a critic. These are not critics. These are people who are using the entertainment industry to write columns and do things. When they say things like, there was one thing quoted to me, I didn't read it, swear I didn't read any of them. I don't want to, because I don't want to have to defend against things. I know what I started to do. I started to make this comedy. I made it it came out exactly as I dreamt it would.
Do you love Harry? Yes, I love Harry. He is my husband. Why don't you like him?
I like him. Just that his whole family treats me like street scum.
They have never used that exact term.
Ever since you met this guy, your life got wrapped up into this neat little package. You even stopped writing. You used to love to write.
That was a long time ago. And I never was a real writer.
You wrote short stories.
Those weren't short stories. Those were novels. I just never finished them.
What kind of paint was that? Watercolor.
You're going to be knocked over by Tartar Control Aqua Fresh. It reduces ugly tartar and more. It helps remove flat and fights cavities with fluoride. With taste that knocks over the leading brand. For a great deal more, get Tartar Control Aqua Fresh.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts, mouth don't.
Because
sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you.
The greatest travel bargain on earth is waiting. For less than the price of a stamp, you can go anywhere, anytime, effortlessly. You can leave from almost any corner. 50,000 people are making sure you have a good trip. There's nothing faster, or easier, or more certain. Yet for all you get, it costs amazingly little. It's AT&T Long Distance.
It's happening this Saturday and Sunday. Consumer's $1 Million Diamond Jewelry Warehouse Sale in Edison, New Jersey. The manufacturer must liquidate his inventory, so everything must go. And we're passing these spectacular savings on to you. Take exit 10 on the New Jersey Turnpike, then follow the red and white signs with the diamonds into Raritan Center to the Singer Building, down the street from the Holiday Inn, to Consumer's Diamond Jewelry Warehouse Sale, this Saturday and Sunday only. So hurry, because diamonds may be forever, but at these prices, they won't last long.
This was great to spend 2 nights with Carl Reiner. His flick, Sibling Rivalry, is out of theater near you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Really enjoyed it.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
If it's anybody other than San Francisco, you call me after January 27th, okay? We're out of here. See you later.
It's the hot place to go to hear the best tunes, plus comedies from Judy Tenuta and Richard Belzer. There's music news and more on the all-new Friday Night Video.
Hi, I'm Dennis Hopper. And I'm Paul Simon. Now, this is a promo for something, but for the life of me, I don't know what. Saturday Night Live. Really? I love that show.
Place. I just sold my old place for $85,000, and my landlord was real upset about that. He said, "You were renting that place." I said, "Oh, man, I forgot. I'll give you some of the money. I feel horrible about this." So I want to tell you all about what's going on in my life, but, you know, first I got to go to the bathroom, and you can watch the opening credits, and I should be right back, okay?
Thanks for staying up later, and it's Garry Shandling's interview. How do you like the set?
This is great. We're going to do the whole thing in this one set like the Honeymooners used to do.
That's
That'll
right.
be exciting.
You know what's a good thing about the Honeymooners? If Alice went into the bedroom, it didn't make any difference if they brought a brass band into the main room. No one could hear. Those bedroom walls were made of cement.
That's true. That's true. Unlike yeah, real apartments in New York, right? But this is a lovely place you have here. My set designer designed the set for my show after my house in Sherman Oaks. He came over to the house, looked around, and said, "I think it should be nicer than this." And I think that was like the ultimate insult for a set designer to put down your house.
What was the inspiration for the show? And obviously it was creative, but there were some precedents for that kind of approach.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, people ask me, who influenced you talking to the camera? First of all, we all know that that's not big news. I mean, George Burns did it first on television, I think, and of course Jack Benny did it. But I was really influenced by Woody Allen. I mean, you know, Woody's my idol, and in movies like Annie Hall when he talked to the camera, and that's what really influenced me. I had never really studied the George Burns show. In fact, it's bizarre to watch the old George Burns show now and see the number of similarities. I mean, it's just spooky that he did some incredibly hip things on that show. But
let's talk about a couple of specific Garry Shandling show episodes. The one where you did the Graduate takeoff with Mrs. Robertson.
Yeah, I think that's probably still the best episode we did, and you know how that came about is we got the idea to do a show where a friend of Gary's mom hits on Garry. And does that sound weird for me to talk about myself in the third person? So that's the writer's head talking. I swear in real life, otherwise
do you know how many
I don't
people
call someone and go, hi, Garry would like to go out with you.
Do you know how many people now talk about themselves, public figures talk about themselves in the third person?
Well, let's think about it.
Athletes do it all the time.
Now, wait a minute. Do they? You know what the worst trap is when they go, we're going to Detroit next. And you go, who's we? You know, and they're talking about themselves.
Yeah.
But that's weird. But the way I talk about it in the third person, which gets us into that weird and wild thing we should talk about at some point. But, you know, when I talk about it in the third person, it's the writer talking about that show, and I often saw Garry as a character, strangely enough. I mean, sometimes it was me, and I would go back and forth and go, well, what I would do. But often that show became something that was very different than me. So it was like, as a writer, I'd go, well, I think Garry should. So that's how I would do it. I don't think I've ever... If at any point in this interview I say, Garry really enjoyed doing his TV show, then just reach
you've gone around the corner
and shake me around.
But almost all the shows had at their center that Garry Shandling anxiety. Different situations, but that anxiety was
Yeah,
essential.
I think that it was absolutely sort of a guy really confused about the world and figuring out, and you know, a little neurotic, and where it got be into a character and beyond what was real was, you know, the character became more neurotic and sort of more frenetic than certainly I am. Not that I don't have my moments, but it was certainly you know.
But on the Graduate one,
becomes a caricature more than anything else, you know.
On the Graduate takeoff, in walks Norman Fell, whom none of us remember was in The Graduate, but he was briefly.
Well,
he was a landlord or something, and
I'll tell you what happened there, and we got off track, but so we got the idea that one of Gary's mom's friends should hit on him, and then we thought, hey, let's do a parody of The Graduate, and our first thought was to get Buck Henry. Now Norman is probably watching. He didn't know that it's not that he wasn't our first choice, but we immediately jumped to Buck Henry because he was a writer and he wrote the movie and all that. And we wanted someone to come in and say, Garry, this is just like The Graduate. So we started to think about Norman Fell. And then then we realized that people probably wouldn't remember Norman from the movie. So I said, well, why don't we show a clip of the movie that Norman carries around the movie and goes, yes, I was in the movie. And then he popped it in, and he's in that little part. He was the landlord when Dustin moved to wherever it was, Northern California, I think it was.
That was great, Norman.
Yeah, Norman, I'm sorry. I didn't remember that part.
Well, it was kind of a small part.
Yeah, you know, it qualifies you to help me out with this. Do I have to, in order to get Elaine, do I have to sleep with Mrs. Robertson?
Of course not.
But that's what Dustin Hoffman did.
Yeah, but that was a movie. This is real life. You're in control here.
Oh, man, don't put that kind of pressure on me, Norman.
Listen, if I were you, I'd go see Elaine before her mother does.
Right.
Now, you better hurry because there's only 4 minutes left to the show.
Are we that close to the end?
Yeah.
All right, I better get going. Thanks. That's great advice.
Right.
I'll see you guys later.
Good luck, Garry.
See you. Okay. Thanks, Norm.
Nance, you want to see this again? You know, the second time you see it, the performance kind of grows on you. Certain nuances that you...
what about the girl who, the gorgeous cable installer?
Well, she was played by Sean Southwick in the pilot episode. That was still one of the funniest scenes we did. The pilot episode involved me going on one of those classic bad first dates.
Yeah.
And it was with the cable TV installer. and the classic scene, it was a great scene, is we went back to her apartment, and all she talked about was her cat. And that segued into her watching Gilligan's Island and singing the entire theme as we watched Gilligan's Island, and and there was just a tight shot of my face going, I feel like Gilligan, I can't get off this date.
The weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed. If not for the current of the field, the screw, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship set ground on the shore of with Gilligan. The skipper to the lead, the millionaire and his wife. The movie star, the professor and Marianne. This is a great one. The professor builds a ham radio set.
Right.
But just before he gets ready to signal for help, Gilligan comes along and accidentally knocks the radio into the lagoon,
Oh.
so they end up still being stranded.
Oh, what a jerk.
Oh, God. I just ruined the whole thing for you, didn't I?
No, you didn't. No, you can't get your hopes up too high on this show. No. You got to go in knowing they're not getting off the island. As soon as they get off the island, the series is over. I knew something was going to happen. It's okay.
I never thought of it that way.
You know, it's so odd as I'm sitting here and you're talking about the show. I'm really having trouble remembering specific moments. It's unbelievable to me. It's like either my memory is shot, or what's really happened is I got so burned out and I'm moving on to other things that it's all a blur, and I'm sure everyone on the show would sort of feel that way. So it's really interesting to hear you pick out specific moments, because I have forgotten individual moments, and there were so many really nice ones that I'm proud of, but they don't jump into my head, strangely enough.
You know, I think that the most effective parodies of television have usually been done by people who have some real affection for television. Not people who view it with disdain, but people who view it with bemusement. Like, yeah, most of it is stupid, but you can tell that Letterman doesn't really hate television. He just doesn't want to be the biggest jerk on television, the most TV-type guy, so he just wants to distance himself from it. The SCTV guys who did the devastating Merv Griffin stuff and everything else, you could tell they were television fans, not people who had disgust with the medium, but who grew up with it.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, their comedy is about television. I mean, you know, we're starting to get into this cycle where, you know, we were talking about the other night that art is coming to an end because we're starting to talk about, we're starting to make jokes on art instead of creating new art in a way. And I certainly was really influenced by television, but my motivation for doing my show was that I was a situation comedy writer, and and I wrote for Sanford and Son and some other shows when I was like 25 years old, and they were very funny. And I remember sitting at the typewriter and just falling into these formulas, you know.
Yeah.
And there was something about me that rejected that. So I knew if I was going to stay in TV, I wanted to do something really different. Yet, you're right, I really love television. I mean, I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. My only input with comedy was from, like, The Tonight Show and stuff. I mean, I feel like The Tonight Show's part of my life, you know? I mean, part of me. I mean, I just used to be glued to it and stuff like that. So I always wanted to, you know, also do that.
Here's Garry Shandling. Living on the edge, running with the wind. Soaring through the heights on eagle's wing. Wanna see your spirit flying free. Step outside your mind, cross over the line.
Chris Berman for Bud Bowl Update. It's been almost a year since that controversial fumble gave Budweiser the win in Bud Bowl 2. Bud Light has struck back by making quarterback sensation Bud Dry its top draft choice. Big and bold with that rifle arm. Bud Dry is the coolest thing to hit the PFL since Budway Joe. Will Bud Dry sign in time for Bud Bowl 3? Bud Bowl Update will keep you informed as this all-important story develops.
Gee, sounds awful, Bob.
It's no day at the beach, Steve. Sore throat, cough.
Try one of these.
Sugar-free Nice showers your throat with medicine for icy, cool relief.
Oh, cool. Feels better. Guess it's back to work for me.
Yeah.
Put your throat on ice with Nice.
They're at your Christmas store. Sears. Top brand electronics like this 41-inch LXI TV with remote and MTS stereo surround sound. Save $100. Only at Sears Brand Central. For Christmas.
Good work, kid. Now read them their rights. Shoot her.
Clint Eastwood and Charlie Sheen are partners.
Shoot her now.
In The Rookie.
You think I like dragging around after you all day? I'd hate it.
Shut up. Fasten your seatbelt.
Clint Eastwood, Charlie Sheen in The Rookie. Rated R. Starts Friday, December 7th at a theater near you.
Double discounts. Double discounts on every new Toyota, Ford, Dodge, Chrysler, and Plymouth in stock at Autoland of Springfield. Double discounts up to $9,000 and over 3,000 vehicles to choose from. Ford buyers, the discount on a Taurus, $4,010, double it to $8,021. Double the discount on a Festiva L Plus and pay only $49.99. Double discounts and no payments till next year right now at Autoland of Springfield. Call 1-800-AUTOLAND. But hurry, double discounts end soon.
I got this new place. I'm starting fresh. This is the stuff I wouldn't trust the movers to touch. This is my own personal stuff. This is my hair dryer. This is a Conair 1500. And God forbid there's a power blackout. I have this portable generator so that it'll keep my hair dryer going because you always want to look good even in an emergency.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so much artifice in television and everything, and we do what we can to eliminate that and kind of break through the fourth wall.
Oh, I can't believe she worked longer on you, by the way. I guess the star of the show gets a little longer.
But we gave you enough attention,
That was good, good.
How's
What
the
did you
hair?
call it? You said it was the big hair anxiety.
It's a hair anxiety program. That's what it is.
You spend as much time on your hair as I do. No one knows this.
Absolutely not true.
But I was in the makeup room and out, and you were in there before me, and you were still lingering when I left.
But I was just looking in on you.
Oh,
I was done.
Right.
I was done. I walked right
and I
into
think
the
you
building
put about
and right onto the set.
5 to 6 different sets of clothes on, too, and you came in and went, no, I've never seen a guy so concerned.
Vicious lies. How is your hair?
My hair's doing good, thanks a lot. Actually, your hair person said that it was getting too full on the sides. Everyone comments on my hair, it's unbelievable. She said,
well, you started
"Keep it down."
You're the person
you started
who
it. There's
you're
a
the person-
mature response. You started it.
That's one notch above your mother.
Oh, that's way below your mother. You know, I don't know. I should have never started talking about my hair. You're right, because people will yell on the street, hey, your hair looks good today. And I'll have like a baseball hat on, but it's like one of those.
Yeah, I saw you in concert about a week or so ago, and people were yelling from the audience. Your hair looks great. Or, how's your hair? Fix your hair.
In the middle of my routines, too,
Right.
weren't they? Weren't they?
Screwing up your timing.
Yeah. No, they do. They yell out my hair, and they yell out. Yeah, people, I guess, you know, I must have an energy about me that allows people to really, you know, feel free to do that. Because I was standing on a corner here in New York, I swear, and a guy heckled me as he drove by in his car. He yelled, Garry, you're 39 and you'll never get married. And he kept going. It was the weirdest thing. It's absolutely a fact. And he kept going. It was like a guy yelling that, you know.
Now, you didn't stick around The Tonight Show as the permanent guest host long enough to ever host an anniversary special, but you scratched that itch on your own.
I think one of the projects I'm really most proud of is this. I did the Garry Shandling 25th anniversary special for Showtime, and we did it like, it's so odd how ideas, you know, people wonder how. I had done one special for Showtime, and then they said, hey, do another one. And so I had a couple of ideas, and one of them wasn't the 25th anniversary special, but I'd always had it in my head. In fact, when I was a writer, I said to a friend of mine, another writer, I said, wouldn't it be funny to do a show as though you'd been on the air 25 years and do it dead straight and show old clips, and wouldn't that be a wonderful format in which to be funny, and you could be funny in the clips and all that, and sort of parody talk shows if you did a 25th anniversary show.
The thing I like best about it, apart from the specific bits, like you talking to an off-color Mr. Ed, and they had to bleep it all out, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the flashbacks were so time-specific.
Yeah.
The hair was slicked back for the mid-'60s, and the narrow lapel things, and there was even one period of time where it was clear that the show had capitulated to trendiness, and there were go-go girls in like booths flanking you on either
yeah,
side.
it was great. I mean, I'm really proud of that. I really, thanks. I mean, I really love that show and all those moments. And you know, it wasn't sketchy, so the changes were subtle, like it would be like me with the same hairstyle but with a mustache,
right.
But that's all.
How does a horse like you get interested in acting?
When I was growing up, I went to the movies and I saw Francis the Talking Mule, and something just clicked. I figured if that can do it...
Ed, seriously.
What? Donkey? You can say that.
Well, you really can't. Okay, tell me about Lassie now. Was Lassie
I'll tell you about Lassie. Lassie is a dumb bitch.
But there was one time where you donned a wig and some love beads, and you're wearing a Nehru jacket.
Oh, that was for the Woodstock thing. That I was the host who thought this Woodstock was the dumbest idea ever conceived, and good luck getting anyone to show up.
Right.
So it was just it was a host with really bad instincts.
Woodstock, New York. Woodstock. Yeah, I think we've all heard of Woodstock. I had my hair trimmed there once. It's a great place. So what's the name of the theater that it's going to be in now?
No theater. We're going to have it out in the field, man.
In the field. This is a put-on, right?
No, this is serious. We're going to have this outdoor concert. The weather's always great this time of year, and we've rented 6 of those portable toilets. We got a couple cases of hot dogs.
Oh.
We're expecting a couple thousand people. We're going to have a great time, man.
Well, I wish you the best with this farm concert. I think it sounds far out. Bring a change of shoes is my advice on this thing. But good luck, really.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way, brother, because I wanted to ask you here tonight if you would maybe MC the concert for us. Man, we'll give you half the gate.
You know, I'd love to. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be at the Comedy Barrel in Cleveland.
The show's really nicely done. I mean, you know, I'm very critical of my stuff, overly critical, in fact, and that's one project that I can really be proud of.
Want to play rock and roll tennis? Let's dance.
Boom! The ball is louder, you got!
Any questions?
Those who want 4x4 toughness and need family van practicality, Suzuki introduces the all-new 4-door Sidekick 4x4. It comes with a wealth of standard features, like power steering, a rear-wheel anti-lock brake system, even an AM/FM stereo, starting at less than $12,000. The new 4-door Sidekick is the underpriced overachiever.
Giving beats everything, and nobody beats the Wiz.
Hey, if you've got a kid on your Christmas list, give them what they want. A new Game Boy from Nintendo. And if your little one wants to make some music, nothing beats a Casio keyboard from Nobody Beats the Wiz.
Giving beats everything, and nobody beats the
For
Wiz.
Christmas, as always, nobody beats the Wiz.
Most guys would tell you they don't really think about their hair. Right. Personally, I think most guys want their hair to look good as long as it's not a hassle. That's where Pert Plus comes in. It's a unique shampoo and conditioner in one. So you get clean, more manageable hair than with plain shampoo, but without any extra work. That's Pert Plus. Hey, I admit it, I think about my hair. But it's not all I think about.
Shampoo and conditioner in one. Wash and go with Pert Plus.
Before you were talking about The Tonight Show, and a lot of people would say, even given the great success of the Garry Shandling show, and it's obvious that you wanted to go in a slightly different direction than conventional television, how can a guy give up a permanent slot as the guest host of The Tonight Show? And you did, of your own accord.
Well, you know, it was a really difficult decision, and you know, it's not one I'm comfortable with yet. You know, it'll be another year before I know if several decisions I've made were the right ones. And you know, I was doing my own show, and The Tonight Show, whom I have a wonderful association with, wanted me to split the weeks with Jay and guest host 4 weeks, and he would guest host 4 weeks. And I'd been hosting and whatnot, and it was at a point where my show was so consuming, because I was writing as much as I was performing, that I said, it's impossible. I was really insecure about my work suffering in one or the other.
Yeah.
I said, my goodness, I don't nearly have time to go out, and I didn't have time to go out, as Jay did, and work on monologues. And, you know, suddenly I would finish an episode of my show, and people don't realize how difficult it is to sit down and then write monologues each night for The Tonight Show. And I didn't have a team of writers. I certainly had a friend or two that would help, but it wasn't like I was...
So the guest host doesn't tap into Johnny's writers?
No, they don't. They don't. Now, you know, if you do that regularly, you want to pretty quickly assemble a team of writers, because it's impossible for anyone to be that prolific, and I'm certainly not. And, you know, I think in retrospect, if I had it to do over again, I might make a decision to continue hosting The Tonight Show and restructure my own show so that it wouldn't have been as grueling, or find a way that I didn't have to work quite as hard on it, so that I could have done other things. There were other things I turned down, too. And, you know, you get in a
like your own talk show?
Well, I turned down my own talk show after my show ended. And, you know, I think that the reason for that is clear to me. I mean, if you're... There are so many talk shows on now, and they all have a style. And I'm not sure what kind of talk show I would do right now that would really make a difference. And I'm not going to jump into something just for the sake of jumping into it.
Whenever my brother Tom and his friends had to decide what game to watch on TV, it was a toss-up.
Heads or tails? Heads.
Then Tom got smart. Very smart! He got this Magnavox TV with a built-in smart window, so Killer could watch football on the main screen.
Without getting mad when Stork and I check out basketball on the smart window.
You might say Magnavox saved your friendship, Tom.
You could actually say it saved my life.
Magnavox. Smart choice. Very smart.
If I told you my pantyhose could go through an obstacle course like this without a snag, you'd say, no way. And I'd say, no nonsense.
No nonsense. The pantyhose that last.
For those who want 4x4 toughness and need family van practicality, Suzuki introduces the all-new four-door Sidekick 4x4. Starting at less than $12,000, it's the underpriced overachiever.
In this room is a remarkable entertainment. It can make you laugh. Or change moods. It'll take you around the world. It comes with 50,000 people to help. It does more, faster. Yet for all you get, it costs amazingly little. It's AT&T long distance.
The air's crackling with excitement. At your Toyota dealer, where lightning is striking again. On the reliable new 91 Camry. And we're back with the biggest option package savings in Toyota history. And big factory dealer incentives are here, so you can save even more. See for yourself. Come drive a new 91 Camry now. So don't just sit there. Hurry, even though lightning strikes twice. 3 strikes and you may be out of luck.
So you're not on TV regularly now. What are you going to do next?
I'm trying to figure out what I want to do because I want to do something that inspires me, and so, you know, I'm trying to figure out what it is. I have some ideas, and it's a transition period for me.
But doing stand-up now pretty well.
I'm going to do one of those HBO stand-up specials, which I'm really looking forward to because I have a whole new hour of material that I'm working on, and that'll be the next thing.
Should we walk off and let them see what this really looks like? Is that a good way to end this deal here?
Absolutely. Let them see how shoddy this place really is.
It really is not as glamorous as it appears. So we'll
Mr. Levy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the one, the only, Mr. J. Levy!
Oh, thanks, Al. Jay, did you direct or co-direct most of those infamous Weird Al Yankovic videos that
I sure as heck did.
Like The Sturgeon and Eat It?
Yeah, all that stuff.
What was your first foray into the entertainment field? I know you've done more than directing. You've done other things long before.
Well, Al saw me directing Traffic a long time ago, and he said, that's the guy for me, you know?
Right.
Oh, I don't know. It was a long time ago. Gee, it kind of went from, well, the embryonic stage into kind of being an agent and then a manager and then a director.
And now you're playing who in the movie?
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Yeah, it's true.
How's he? Pretty good actor, Victoria? Is he like the job Jay Levy does?
Mm-hmm.
I like the job you do. Why don't you mention Johnny Crawford, who's a good friend of mine? Why don't you say something nice about Johnny Crawford?
Well, Johnny Crawford was on your show.
Right from
And that's how I first heard of you.
Really?
Rifleman. And he was, I met him in summer stock when I was 20, and he sent me a one-way ticket to Hollywood because he thought I should be in Hollywood.
Well, he's got good taste.
So, he's a great guy.
He is. I hope he's watching.
What? Oh, yeah. What, how does it end? Oh, okay. UHF is the funniest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, thanks, Victoria. Thanks.
I agree.
Spontaneous stuff just comes.
I agree. Which movies are you proudest of that you were in before UHF? Name some of the other Victoria Jackson.
Casual Sex, I'm very proud of.
Casual Sex had a question mark at the end. It was called Casual Sex?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially the massage scene.
I'll bet.
And,
I want to see a scene of a movie now called UHF with Jay Levy in the scene. I hope we have a Jay Levy scene.
I hope so, too.
I've never seen Jay act. I've seen him negotiate.
He's always himself.
Huh?
He's always himself.
Right.
He never acts.
Ladies and gentlemen, a sneak peek now of the movie, and this is is he does he do a good job in the movie?
He's the best. He's kind of like the Ralph Macchio of our generation.
Right. Going to get the Nobel Prize. Nobels, right? No, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of Jay Levy in his movie debut. The man from behind the scenes now in front of the camera. A sample.
Next week on U62, he's back. And this time, he's mad. Gandhi 2. No more Mr. Passive Resistance. He's out to kick some butt. This is one bad mother. You don't want to mess with.
Don't move, lame boy.
He's a one-man wrecking crew. But he also knows how to party.
Give me a stick, medium rare.
There is only one law. His law. Gandhi 2.
Whoa, pretty intense.
Listen, I really appreciate having a psychic here because I really need to know, is my karma like screwed up forever now?
Just for about 4 more lifetimes. However, there's hope for you. You see, what you can do is atone in this lifetime by not giving her those awful cues anymore, and the karma will be lifted.
Okay.
And by watching one of Weird Al's videos, the whole countryside at this point, I happen to know the tempo of my audience, they're clamoring. And by a real coinka-dinky, this video is called what?
UHF, What are the chances of this happening? The video is called the same thing as the movie.
1 in a trillion. First time on my show, maybe on any show, ladies and gentlemen, and this has to be an experience. Let's lean back and watch this brand new Weird Al video. And it's really not weird. It's incredible. Let's watch. Enjoy. Who said you can't have it all? We got it all, right? We got it all.
So you may have noticed in that video, there was a moment where Stanley Spadowski, our janitor, was actually doing an amazing trick. And actually, we wanted to take this opportunity on your show to reveal to the world the first time how it's done.
The Yugoslavian straw trick.
Oh, no.
This is it.
It's a very delicate operation. You have to remove the straw. And you flatten the straw. And this is the delicate part. I described it today.
Well, you kind of fold it back and forth like an accordion, see?
Can kids do this at home in their spare time?
It's very dangerous.